Hi, my name is Juan, and welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things. Please remember that we are therapists, but we are not your therapists, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Couch podcast. As always, I'm here with you, maybe in the morning, maybe at night. Hopefully not at night. Hopefully you're sleeping. Today we got a really neat episode. We are with Christie. Christie is a local business owner in the GSO Greensboro community, a registered dietitian. We're going to get to talk about food, wellness, living well. Christie, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you and I, how far back have we met? Over a year at least, right?
At least a year ago, yes.
Yeah. And our fields, I think, beautifully come together, right? Building up like a whole self. I think when someone is working on being healthy and being strong and whatever that may mean for that person on the individual level, it has to include food and that mental health component.
Absolutely. Our fields definitely intersect, so it's a great partnership.
Can you share with the audience as much as you like about your work, your business, what drew you to nutrition and wellness, and the kind of people that your practice works with?
Sure. I grew up with a mother who was a registered nurse, and she worked in the operating room. And I always found the health field very fascinating. But I knew that I could not follow in her footsteps and be a nurse because I just did not have the stomach for it.
Mm.
And I was in high school when my dad was diagnosed with high cholesterol, and they told him that he needed to improve his diet. And I will never forget sitting at the table, and my mom said, Chrissy, you should do that. You should be a dietitian and talk about food. And from that moment on, that's how I became interested in the field, and I never wavered. I went to college for nutrition. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So that has always been kind of my peak interest. And what's I think is the best job, because who doesn't want to talk about food? I mean, when you think about it, we
Hmm.
talk about food in so many different settings, and I thought it was like the perfect job. When I got my first job, though, I was working in the hospital, and I worked like as a clinical dietitian. So I was on the floors, and I would talk to patients who had just had, surgery or heart disease or something like that. And I was supposed to talk to them about their diet and how they could improve and how it would improve their health outcomes. But the problem was they weren't feeling great, so they couldn't like really they weren't interested in talking about nutrition. And I
Hmm.
really realized that wasn't where I wanted to be. So I switched and I started in the employee wellness area. And those were the people that I got to talk about food. And then it just transitioned to my private practice, which we've had now for 15 years.
Wow.
And I love working with clients who are struggling with food decisions and want to learn how to feel better, how to fuel their days, how to prevent disease, and how to manage diseases. And so that's kind of our population. We work with pediatrics and adults, and we see all the different types of people that are either well or trying to get feeling better, manage their diseases, and just overall helping with nutrition and healthy living.
Your story of getting started, I love that. It's neat to find different professionals where it's like this really impactful moment. And I'm sure it drives a lot of the work that you do and the people that you hire in your practice and the mission behind your practice, all from like such a powerful moment, the way you described it. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I started my practice. I loved my job working in employee wellness, and I never intended to leave. And I started as a side gig just to earn some extra money. I love to travel.
Mm.
And so I wanted to be able to earn some money for a travel budget. And then I realized that I'm very passionate about helping people. And so then the more people you started helping, and it's not like, and kind of what similar to what you do, what we do is not just a one time show up, here's what you need to do and let you go. You have to think about it like just like you would like a musical instrument. You would never show up to a piano lesson and they say, here's all the keys and this is how you do it. and you leave and you never come back, right?
No,
You
right.
go and you practice, and then you come back and you fine tune those skills, and every week you build upon them. And that's very similar to what we do and similar to what you do. And the fact that, people show up and we help them, and we have clients that we've worked with for years and years. And it's building that relationship and helping them in different seasons of the year, but also in different seasons of life. And that is kind of how this business really build, because then you start taking on, so many, you can only see so many clients, and you have to
Yep.
hire more people. And here we are later, and we're a company with 10 employees now, and doing it full time. So it's really remarkable. And one of the things I take pride in is being a female business owner in a community where, I can hire other females in our practice that can really truly empower others, but then also be a great example for their family and their children on work-life balance.
Mm. With with food, why do you think, this is where my brain goes here, why do you think so many people struggle with like the actual decisions? And I know you mentioned you worked with kids all the way through adults, and you're working with people that come in and it's preventative or it's managing a disease, or maybe it's I'm doing well and I want to just keep climbing that ladder. This struggle though of why do people struggle with food decisions? What do you notice in there?
Well, it's so unique, right? Because the fact that it's unlike any, like, you either exercise or you don't, right? You either smoke or you don't. You
Hmm.
drink or you don't, right? But food you have to eat every day. You have to come in contact with it every day, and not just once a day. You have to eat it 3 times a day, hopefully, and a couple snacks. That's our goal,
Hmm.
right? And so I think it becomes so complicated because we have to make so many decisions around food and drink. And so, like, for example, I'll just ask you this question. So we're meeting on a morning time, right? Did you have morning beverage this morning? Did you have coffee or
Oh, come
anything?
on, Christy, you got me in the spot, but you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. So I've had what, 2 cups of coffee, 8 ounces each, and I'm gonna
Okay.
have breakfast around probably like 11:15. But I've been trying to like fast in the morning. Hopefully
Okay,
that's
but let's talk about the coffee for example. For example, like, so did you have to decide like what you were going to put in your coffee,
I did my first one. I decided that I would just do like a K cup.
right?
Right, so I did one of those, and then the second one was um a dirty chai. So
Okay. So with your dirty chai, like, or with your K-cup, like, you had to decide, did you put coffee or creamer, or like creamer or sugar in it, right? What did you
hmm
add to it? And that's just an example of like how you made that decision. You had to sit there and decide whether or not you were going to do a K-cup, or whether or not you were going to do a dirty chai, right? And in
hmm
what order you were going to do it, and then what you were going to put into them, all of that. And so sometimes, just like everything else, you get decision fatigue. We are worn down. So by the end
mm,
of the day, when you're trying to decide what's for dinner, and you're trying to feed a family, possibly, and you're sitting there going, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? And you're sitting there like, well, let's have chicken. No, we had chicken last night. Let's order pizza. No, we ordered pizza the other night. I don't want pizza. Those kind of decisions, it wears you down. And that's when I think it becomes so overwhelming. It's because we don't have the option, or we shouldn't make it an option, right? To just say, well, fine, I won't eat. But we have
mm,
so many decisions every day about food, not to mention the fact that we're getting influenced by, the food manufacturers that are labeling these things, that are saying it's clean, it's organic, it's,
hmm
non-GMO, it's low fat, non-sugar added, all of these things. So we're getting inundated with the food manufacturers, as well as social media, as well as our peers, because we hear things like, oh, okay, so Juan's fasting. Maybe I shouldn't eat till 11, but I don't know. And, so you're
mm,
hearing all of this influence. And then you're, seeing it on the news where it says, oh, the, news says that we shouldn't do this. So that's when it becomes so overwhelming, and you just want to just shut it down. And so looking with it through the lens of having an expert, a registered dietitian, to be able to help you and say, no, this is what you need for your individual body type. This is what you need for your medical conditions. This is what works for you, given your financial home life, work life, all of that. This is what kind of works for you, is what our goal is to be able to kind of quiet some of that food noise and be able to help you and have some small obtainable goals.
Mhm. That direction, I mean, that is valuable. I'm listening in, I'm thinking about the coffee. I didn't think a lot about what I put in it, right? I didn't think about the sugar or the cream in the way of wellness and nutrition and the energy it's going to give me, or the calories or the feeling.
Right.
Um, and you're absolutely right. Like social media, right? I think about that, and I'm viewing how people look, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should have shoulders like that, or look a certain way, or that food there at the grocery store, that shiny apple that looks like a good one. I should get that one, versus the one in that bag. And if we don't have that knowledge, and I have just a little bit, I did a nice little minor in nutrition during my undergrad, but I think even for me, that's not nearly enough to know what's behind this food? How does it impact my wellness? Have you have you do you see that when you're working with clients? Are they coming in with how do I word this? Like if I were your client, would I typically come in with a good amount of knowledge of
No.
what's okay? Yeah,
No, you
yeah.
don't have to have any knowledge. Well, and sometimes people will come in and they'll say, I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. Right.
Hmm.
And the thing is that just kind of what we just used with this coffee example, right? You usually are just on autopilot. And very rarely do you sit down and think about what do I eat and how do I
Hmm.
nourish myself all day long. So if anything, if having an appointment with a dietitian gets you to pause, reflect, think about what are my choices every day? Could I change these to be more beneficial to me? And then to think about like, okay, maybe this is something that I've always thought is true about nutrition because I've read it, I've seen it, somebody said it, somebody famous said it. But then to have an expert to say, like, no, that's not right. This is what the science tells us. And these are the things that I would be focusing on to include in your diet. And that's another thing, too, is that I feel like with nutrition, people always want to slant it on the things that we shouldn't do. Be like, okay, well,
You're
I
right.
know
Yeah,
that there's donuts in the office break room, but I
I
shouldn't do
shouldn't.
that
Hmm.
because I didn't go to the gym this morning and I know it's high in sugar and all this stuff. And what we like to do is spin it in a positive way and to say, look at all the great things with nutrition we want you to include more of. We want you to look at ways that you can add in more protein, more fiber, more fruits, more vegetables, more vitamins, more minerals. And instead of being like, okay, well, shame on you, you shouldn't have that added sugar.
That is so true. I'm like laughing at myself here. And I think my whole life I've done that where it's like, no, I shouldn't have that. And I even hear it in other people.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then you've worked to shift that mentality. So it looks like a lot of your work, a good amount of it also includes that mindset of
absolutely.
approaching your relationship with yourself, with food in a way that's sustainable.
Yeah. And think about it, like a lot of what we view about food is how we were raised. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I really try to get people to steer away from is using food as a reward or a punishment. And I
Mm.
want you to think about some examples that maybe you've grown up with. Maybe it's been like, hey, you got really good grades. We're going to go to McDonald's.
Yep.
Hey, you did really good at the dentist. Let's go get a milkshake. Oh, good job on your performance at work. We're going to host a pizza party.
Hmm.
And so it sets up this food as reward mentality. So then, as adults, when we're just trying to get through the day, our natural instinct is to say, yay, I survived the day. I deserve a bowl of ice cream. I had a really, really bad day and I made
Yeah.
it through it. So I'm going to go and eat some cookies. Right. And so if you can shift that mentality of using food as both a reward, but also using it as a punishment and to
Hmm.
say, well, you have to eat, these green beans or else you can't get up from the table. Those kind of
Yeah.
things, it really does shape how you view food in the long run. And a lot of our clients are females, and they're coming in with a lot of history based on how they view food based on how they were raised in their household. And if their mother, for example, was the primary cook in the home,
Mm-hmm.
and based on how she viewed food, and if the mom was feeling bad or, had this guilt about how she looked, and she would say, okay, I'm on a diet, so I can't do this. So nobody in the house is going to be able to have cookies because I can't have
Mm.
cookies.
Yeah.
Then it shapes that mentality of, okay, well, I should also feel bad about how I look in my body, so I shouldn't eat cookies either. And so a lot of it is for us is trying to unpack some of that guilt and shame and
Yeah.
how they feel about their food and their body. And we handle the food part of it, but then we like to pass people on to your services and to your team to handle the mental capacity and relearning all of those like cues and how they view
Mm-hmm.
themselves and retraining it.
That cultural part, I'm thinking about my Latin culture. I'm also thinking about culture in general. Like, when I was in K through 12, the culture of a school and the food there, the culture of college and the calf. There's a part of me that pushes against it and says the there's like the Hispanic part that says, well, I remember so many good conversations in the kitchen with family,
Right.
or food just being like a part of everything. My mom's like, come eat this. And I'm like, oh, I get to have this Dominican food and it's delicious. And then I also remember the other part of good grades, and my kids do this. And then I'm thinking, you know what? Here's like this generational thing taking place. So you're helping me here. My daughter the other day comes home with her report card, and she goes, "Can we go get donuts?" Because I think Krispy
Oh, how
Kreme,
fun.
right? That's a reward there. But also, I remember me as a kid. I would bring home grades, and then I would want food. I would ask my mom, "Can you make me this?"
Do it. It's just one of those things that we should like, you know, not reward it with food so that like donuts could be a part of our like routine, not just for good grades, right? So like part of it, but we want to make sure to emphasize too, we want to make sure people sit down and have meals together as a family and conversate over food and all of that. We want that to be a part of it. And we want dessert to be a part of some of those meals as well, right?
Hmm.
Maybe not every meal, but some of those meals, but then make other choices in that rotation to where it looks like, fruit is just as much of a balance as like Krispy Kreme donuts, right? And so that the fruit is not getting the negative, like, okay, well, tonight we have to have fruit because for our dessert because we had donuts last night, but to like view it in balance with that so that all food ends up having this neutral power. We don't like it when one food group gets
Mm.
higher power on that. But I absolutely want to emphasize the importance of having, family meals and having people sit down and, eat together, have those conversations. And I know it's harder and harder with our American lifestyle right now, like it
Yeah.
is, but it's so important that our kids see how we eat
Hmm.
together, how we prepare food together, how we balance that whole thing of kitchen duties, because I don't like it when one person in the family is responsible for, planning the meals, prepping the meals, cooking the meals, cleaning the meals, and then everybody that eats it just gets up and walks away. And I
Mm.
think it's so important that everybody that's eating the meal have some kind of role in that, whether or not we rotate, planning those meals, whether we get other people involved with prepping those meals, cleaning up those meals, so that it is an even distribution, so that our kids, when they're on their own, realize what's involved with cooking and
Mm.
have some experience of it. Because then they're showing up and they're like, I don't have any idea how to prepare a meal. And again, let me be
Mm.
very clear. I'm not saying every meal has to be a Pinterest worthy, over the top meal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they need to see that process of getting food from the grocery store into like the house onto the table.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. It's interesting. I'm thinking about it, and years back in my marriage, um, I started to do my part more and more and cook more meals. And I mean, it created a huge change in the family system, all the way from kids, seeing what was taking place. And a lot of that was culture. I grew up in the Latin household where the stereotype from what I would see in my mom and other relatives was mom would be the one that would take that role. And you hearing your words, I can attest to uh, jumping into the kitchen and making meals. And mine aren't Pinterest worthy, not not
Right.
not not at all. Like they're eating it and they're taking one for the team. They're telling me, yes,
Well, and
Dad, this
it,
tastes
and
pretty
it has to,
good.
it just has to be simple too. And
Yeah.
another thing that I would encourage you guys to do is, I really believe in family meal planning, right? And what I do in my household is everybody who's going to be eating in the house for the upcoming week picks a meal, right? And the
Mm,
rule is that it has to have a fruit or vegetable. So, for example, if my daughter picks hot dogs for dinner, that's fine. I'll say, what fruit or vegetable do you want to have with it? And she'll pick, whatever fruit or vegetable she wants. So she wants to have hot dogs and apple slices. That's what's for dinner, right? Now,
oh.
granted, in my role, I can select what hot dogs I bring into the household, what buns I bring into the household, right? I can
Hmm.
serve the apple slices, all that stuff. And so then what I do is my husband will also pick his meal for the week. I'll pick my meal for the week. And then I plan out our week and look at what does our evening activities look like. And so maybe on a night that's really busy, hot dogs and apple slices are going to fit really easy into that routine because
Mm.
I would challenge anybody that we can make hot dogs and apple slices just as fast as we can to go through the Chick-fil-A drive-through, right?
Yep.
So we can make that happen. So I can put that onto my meal plan for the week and know what night it is. So on the night that I want to have salmon bowls, right, with broccoli and carrots and edamame on there, I'm going to
Hmm.
put that on a different night. But everybody sees the plan, so that way we're not having that discussion at 6 o'clock of what's for dinner. I don't know, what
Yeah.
do you want? All that stuff. But not only that, but like the people are going to get buy-in because they're going to say, okay, maybe salmon bowls is not my favorite thing for dinner tonight,
Hmm.
but that's okay. I'm going to eat it because tomorrow night is my meal. I see hot dogs and apple slices is on that tomorrow night's meal, right? And so as long as you see the plan, you're going to go along with it. And the thing
Mm.
is that even if we abandoned the plan altogether and we ended up ordering pizza for dinner,
Yeah.
inevitably somebody's going to eat pizza that didn't really want to eat pizza, right? It's
Hmm.
not going to be your favorite meal. Hopefully, it's not your last meal. That's what I always like to say.
Yep.
It's not your last supper. But the thing is that if salmon bowls isn't your favorite thing, it's okay. It's okay. That's what's for dinner tonight. And then the next night's your meal. And maybe I don't really want to eat hot dogs and apple slices, but I'm going to because that's how I'm going to get my daughter to eat my meal. And sometimes my husband to eat my meal, right?
Mm.
Is to know that he's going to have his meal on the rotation too.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps to alleviate that pressure and that burden because there's nothing worse than working hard all week long, coming home, and whether that's you or your wife, and you are in the kitchen making a dinner, and then people turning their nose up to it and saying, I didn't really want this. This doesn't look good. I'm going to get Chick-fil-A anyway. That's really hard. But I feel
Yeah.
like when people know that, okay, I can eat this meal and tomorrow night's my meal, then everybody's okay with that.
Mm. Those are great strategies. I'm gonna borrow them. And you're
You
right,
should.
that 6 p.m. I did
It's
that.
awful.
It's awful. It's terrible. You're exhausted and it's hard to come up with something and then frustration kicks in there. These are valuable, valuable strategies that do not feel like rocket science to implement. Christy, for families, for individuals, listeners out there, they're working to build wellness in their life. They perhaps feel overwhelmed. Maybe there's some conflict there they've heard with food advice, whether it's on social media or through some sort of avenue. How can they connect with you? How can they set up
Absolutely.
work with you?
So the best way is to go through our website, and our website's christyrd.com. You can learn all about us, read about our fascinating and amazing team of dietitians. Everybody has their different areas of expertise. You can fill out a contact form, put in your health insurance information. We will verify insurance. The good news is that we accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, United, MedCost insurance, as all of those plans cover nutrition counseling at 100%. So there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't do this. There's no copay, there's no coinsurance. This is free.
Mm,
We offer in-person and telehealth appointments. And like I said, we do for pediatrics up to adults. You don't have to have a physician referral. So it is really a win-win situation. So let's say that 6 p.m. dinner is a struggle for you. Let us help you. Fill out the form. We'll verify your insurance. We'll get you scheduled for an appointment, and then we'll help you and hold your hand and work through it. Maybe we're starting from the ground up. maybe you're already doing really good things and we just want to tweak a couple things to either make you feel better, have better energy, reduce inflammation. But wherever you are, we will meet you where you are. We promise we will not be the food police and shame you on anything that you eat or drink. And our goal is to really just help you feel better and to make you more energized and live a healthier life.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to put all of those in the show notes so everyone listening in, once everything's up and going and you are ready to connect with Christie, click on that link and you'll be able to get started. Christie, thank you so much for being on here on the couch. I've appreciated your time, your expertise, and the relationship that we have in the community, being able to
Yes.
refer to one another to help our Greensboro and surrounding community out.
Yes. Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to continuing our collaboration.